Welcome back, St. Lucia, and thank you for staying tuned to Newsmaker Live. With me is Mr. Andres Griffith and Nurse Magdalena Alexander, and we're talking about Occupational Health and Safety Week, which is coming up next week. Earlier in the segment, we talked about accidents that occur in the workplace. And now, Mr. Andrews is going to tell us about notification of those accidents. Once the accidents have occurred, what do we do? A lot of the times we don't report them, but we should, because that's the only way the Labor Department is going to know what's happening, what's going on, and what they can do to help ameliorate and fix the situation. Also, he's going to tell us about occupational diseases, not just accidents. There are occupational diseases as well. So, yes, back to you, Mr. Griffith.
Okay. We continue with this activity. Well, let me tell you that in relation for occupational accident, every time you have an accident in a working place, you have to notify immediately to your supervisor. And based on the severity of that accident, it's more than you receive a sick leave more than 72 hours, you have to report that to the Labor Department. You have 4 days to report that accident to the Labor Department.
So there's an accident in the workplace?
For example, you have an accident and you have a sick leave, for example, they give you 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month. Okay?
So immediately the accident happens, you report it to your supervisor. The
supervisor and the manager have the obligation 4 days.
Within 4 days, to report to the Labor Department.
So we can go and conduct the investigation of that accident, of course, to put countermeasures to prevent or eliminate the hazard that create and minimize that situation from happening again. Okay?
Right.
In case of death, immediately they have to report to the Labor Department.
Immediately the death occurs, they've got to report to you.
When the worker died, they need to report immediately, so we have to go immediately to
conduct the investigation. So what happens when an accident happens and it's not reported within the 4 days, or heaven forbid, death, and it's not reported?
Under the law, it's punished. Okay,
so it's punishable.
Yes, it's punishable.
What is
under the Labor Act, they have a fee of more than $2,000. They have to pay. They don't send it to court. Okay,
so that's regardless of the severity. They can be fined to about $2,000, and so they can contest that and go to court.
Of course. Because it's mandatory. It's something that is mandatory. They need to report it to the Labor Department as soon as you have an accident that have severity, more than 72 hours, you have to report it.
Okay, so the accident happens, we report it to our supervisor. Within 4 days, the supervisor reports it to the Labor Department.
Signed by the general manager of the establishment.
Right.
Okay.
So then you now go in, the Labor Department goes in and conducts an investigation.
And it's an obligation of the establishment to conduct an investigation too. You understand?
Okay, so both the Labor Department and the entity involved in the accident has to conduct an investigation.
As soon as an accident, it can be an unsafe condition in the working place or an unsafe action of the workers. That's why you need to conduct the investigation.
Okay,
and sometimes it's mixed.
Right.
So that's why you need to conduct the investigation, because sometimes the employer tells is the employee, because the employee don't
follow. Yes.
For example, no?
Right.
And then you have to conduct the investigation to find out that really and truly that's the situation, or because maybe the worker don't have it. And that's why he wasn't using the adequate gloves. Okay? And that's why we need to conduct the investigation depending on the severity of the accident. And we have to be discussing with the employers, the employee, and representative of the employees too. In cases they have unions present there, they have to be involved in this activity. Okay? To try to prevent a similar situation occur.
Once the investigation has been completed, both the entity and the Labor Department have conducted their investigation. What happens with the results of the investigation?
The result of the investigation, we put confirmation in the working place. So in case it's a machine, protected, whatever, we stop the use of the machine until the employer put confirmation to eliminate the hazard in the machine. Put the guard and everything that they need to put in the working place. That is the
so you would give them a prescription of things that they have to do to ameliorate.
Recommendation that they have to implement to try to.
And will you be following up?
Of course.
Okay. And what if? How long do you give them, depending on the severity?
Depending on the severity. Sometimes it's immediately. They have to stop immediately the machine, and then when they fix it, they call us, and we are the one that give them the green light to continue working on it. Okay.
So what if you've given them 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 days to fix a situation, and you come back and follow up, and they still haven't? What happens? They cannot continue until the situation is fixed. They cannot continue, and the only person to give them that green light is you. And if they were to go ahead, contrary to what you've recommended, then it's another fine.
Another fine.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, employers, beware. Employees, also know that you have an obligation to yourself, to your colleagues, and to your workplace to ensure that you follow the rules and to keep accidents to a minimum. Because as you heard from Mr. Griffith, the implications are vast as to what could happen. It's not just taking a sick leave for 2 days or 4 days or a week or a month or whatever. There are other implications. Work could come to a standstill. Productivity can come to a halt. And in this day and age where we have a serious problem of unemployment, we can't afford to have anybody, not one person, on the breadline. So please ensure that you do the right thing, employers and employees, to ensure that occupational hazards, accidents are kept to a minimum. Now, occupational diseases.
Well, this is a little more complex because, for example, I'm going to put an example that is easy to understand. For example, noise. It's a health hazard. You're working maybe in an environment that is very noisy. And what happened, noise don't hurt. For example, for me, when I hear salsa music loud, for me it's nice.
It's nice.
Sometimes I hear a type of music like Indian music, for me it's noise because it's
because you're not used to it. That's not your cup of tea.
But it's not only that. It's work with the level of noise, and the type of noise that you're receiving, and the time of exposure to the noise, to that noise. Okay, and for example, it's something that is not happening quickly. For example, we have been conducting investigation for example, I was making an investigation in some cruise ship, making noise, evaluation of level of noise. The maximum level for 8 hours is 85 decibel A. That is the unit that we use to measure the noise, the unit that we use. And when I was making the evaluation, it was about 100, 200, so the level of noise was very high. And the guy was sleeping inside. So I said, oh, it's possible this situation. When I went to speak with him, asking how you were sleeping in that noisy area.
It's already gone.
And then he told me, no, briefly, I accustomed to the noise. He was not accustomed. He was deaf.
He was deaf.
But the problem is that what happened is something that don't hurt is by years of exposure. After 5, 6 years of exposure, when you have your hearing capacity is going down. But for that reason, we need to have a surveillance system. And this is where we start to work in the medical attention of that worker. Before they need to start to work in a noisy area, they need to make an automatic test to find out the level of noise that they have, they have any diminution in hearing capacity. And every year we do automated test, medical examination, including automated test, to find out if they have any diminution in hearing capacity. As soon as he surpasses the limit, we remove it from the
now,
or they need to use personal a muff or a plug. That is for noise, for example. Other occupational disease can be asbestos, but you know, it's a situation that we have here in our country, in different countries of Caribbean Island, because we have old buildings, okay? And sometimes it's an occupational accident too, an occupational disease, that he have a specific diagnosis for that occupational disease. And for example, we need to have a surveillance system with these workers that are exposed to that hazard, to dust of asbestos. So they need to have dust masks, or try to have an area wet to prevent that the dust come in the environment. All these control measures need to put in place before they start to handle this type of material, this type of chemical substances or chemical aspect, chemical hazard. So that's why we need to be very careful with occupational diseases, because it's something that sometimes it's an acute intoxication that you receive, but sometimes it's chronic. Maybe cancer. For example, you are exposed to X-ray radiation, for example, and it's in long term. It's not a quick action.
Just for our viewers, just explain briefly what you mean when you say it's an acute.
Well,
effect or a chronic one?
For example, we call acute effect when you, for example, are exposed to any chemical substance, for example, and you start to lose coughing, or your nose starts immediate action. You start to have bleeding on your nose or whatever, depending on the concentration, or rash in the skin. All these things can be an acute symptoms or an acute action of this chemical substance. For example, sometimes we receive complaint that they can tell us, well, I had to run with the worker to the hospital because he couldn't breathe. So when we reached by phone, they told me that. So I told, well, what you were handling? Well, we was using some pesticide to kill the termites. We spray, but they replace the ventilation with air conditioning, they don't have fresh air. Well, we do it on Saturday, no problem. But Monday, when they start to work, some of the workers start to have problems. They have to run because it depends on the individual susceptibility of the worker or the employee too. So when she started to read, sometimes they don't read the label, no? I told her what the chemical substance said. Well, the spray said that this thing you have to use it in this way, in this corner, but how to use it? They say outdoor. And she was using it
indoors.
You understand? So that's why it's every time I tell them they're using any spray or chemical substance, they read the label.
You know, and that is something St. Lucians we don't like to read. We just take the thing and it's a pesticide. We want to kill the termites. We want to get rid of the ants, the cockroaches, whatever it is that's bugging us, and we just take and we don't even read. We just see the picture. Yes, it's a good one. Or we go by word of mouth. Somebody says, oh, I used that. That was good. And we take it and we use it. But we do not take the time to read or even find out how it's to be used. So, please, St. Lucians, read whatever chemical, pesticide, insecticide, whatever it is that we're going to use, read the labels first before we use.
And that is an acute effect when you are exposed to any chemical substance or any physical hazard or any biological hazard too. Okay? If the chronic is when you have exposure day by day to that chemical substance that is accumulating in your body. I can put you an example, for example, lead. Can be lead. These people that are welding with solder that have lead. The fumes, day by day, and maybe in 5-6 years they have intoxication with lead in blood. You understand? And then they have problem with because it affects the central nervous system. So you start to tremble the finger because of the pressure. In long term, it's not
so acute is immediate. The effect is immediate. Acute and chronic is over a period of time before you can see the effects.
And that's why we need to be very careful in this activity when you handle chemical substance or any hazard situation that you have. For example, sometimes we have high concentration of, for example, this chemical substance that can affect the same asbestos, mercury is another hazardous situation. Sometimes we are in the same hospital, the thermometers break down and they have mercury.
So you must know how to use
and mercury is the only metal that is liquid. But when they fall in the ground, they run.
Yes.
And what happens? At normal temperature, the vapors from the come in the environment, and the concentration sometimes is very high, and you don't notice that, but you're inhaling.
Right.
And maybe in long term, you have the exposure of that thing. You don't clean it properly, and that's it. And you have to get it a chronic intoxication with that thing.
So
the same thing will happen with, for example, A-ray radiation. That sometimes we have workers that are exposed to high level of radiation and in a quick action. Maybe it's a lady, she gets pregnant, and then the child born without a finger because the level of radiation that we see, and it's in long term. You understand? It's not something that happen quickly. So they have different, depending on the hazard you have, you need to put adequate controlmeasures to try
Chernobyl comes to mind.
Minimize.
So we have a lot of things that could possibly happen to us, and we're not even aware, we're not even taking notes, and that's just scary, Mr. Griffith. You just scared me. I'm going to have nightmares. I'm going to have nightmares of the things that could happen, especially as a young woman. You know, so many things could happen. We're not even aware, and because, like you said, it's chronic, right? So that takes us to the health fair. tell us about the health fair and what can we expect? Are you going to be giving of that kind of information at the health fair? And what kind of demonstrations or whatnot could be can we expect?
Again, we are just creating an awareness. We are heightening our awareness. These things have been there a while now. But again, at every opportunity we get, during the week of activities, we take the opportunity to increase that awareness. And health and safety, I see it as both the individual, the employee, and the employer taking full responsibility. Sometimes I stay and I said, okay, a health worker, health and safety could be a health worker living home in a relatively stable health, getting to his or her workplace, expecting to be in a healthy environment, producing effectively, quality care to his or her customers. In that way, the customer will be satisfied, the health worker is happy, the employer is happy. Whereas if it's the other way around, you have an employer living home sick, getting to work in an environment which is not comfortable, it's hot, the AC is not functioning properly, there's carpet on the floor, it's not clean, the windows, ventilation is poor, productivity is low. Your customers are shortchanged, and at the end of the day, your employer is unhappy because you have not produced enough.
So the whole chain is unhappy?
A whole chain
is just an unhappy chain?
Unhappy chain, okay? And so we are hoping that at this health fair, we will be able to provide some services that will help people, alert them. Prevention is better than cure, okay? At our health fair, we will be providing blood pressure and blood sugar screening. We will be providing hearing health, hearing test, which he spoke about earlier on. It will be basic hearing tests, but based on your results, you will be informed as to whether your hearing is being diminished or if your hearing is in perfect shape. We will be providing HIV test. In fact, Tapion is going to be on board, and they will be providing PSAs for our men over 40 years.
Explain PSAs. I mean, you know, I know, some of us know, but not all of us. So.
PSAs is the prostate test, we call it. PSA meaning prostate serum antigen.
Right.
Okay? It is a test to identify whether the prostate is functioning properly, especially for our men. This test is provided for men over 40 years. Reason being that over 40 years, usually the prostate starts to degenerate or not function as well as it should. So that is the time.
That's the finger test.
The finger test.
That all the men are.
However,
that all the men are so afraid of.
However,
yes,
at the fair, we will not be doing a finger test.
Of course not. I didn't expect.
Right.
Oh my God! Now you wouldn't get anybody.
No, I know that. So we are going to provide a blood test.
Okay. Oh, so there are two ways to. Okay. All right. So tell us about that.
The finger test is actually going to tell us how big the shape, what the prostate feels like.
Okay.
Okay. However, the blood test is going to give us an indication of whether or not there's some activity happening with the prostate.
So do you have to do the two?
Well,
is it recommended?
Both of them are recommended. But if you do not wish to start with the finger, then you do the, when I say finger, the examination, sorry, you would do the blood test. The blood test would give us an indication as to whether or not there's something wrong happening with the prostate.
But is it possible to get a clean blood test but still have abnormal prostate?
No.
No, not at all. No. So the blood test is as accurate as it can be?
Yes, it's a guide. Except if the blood test gives us a perfect result, but yet you are complaining. You are complaining. The men are complaining that they pass in urine. The urine is the force of the urine is not as forceful as it used to be. They would pass urine, sometimes start and then stop. They're not emptying the bladder completely, or the urine is falling right down at the feet. Okay, because usually when men urinate, you have this, it projects. Okay, if the blood test is showing one thing, yet you have complaints, you have symptoms, doctor would have to do further investigations. Okay. Apart from the prostate test, we also have HIV tests being provided. That test, I must say that it's not free of charge. Prostate test is usually between $50 and up, but Tapion will be providing it at $40. Okay. So we are asking the men at least over 40 take this opportunity and have their blood test done. They can have the HIV and blood and PSA test done at a cost of $50. Okay. If they do not want the HIV, they can have prostate, or if they do not want to have the prostate, they can have HIV at $10. Okay. We will also be having, apart from the blood test and the hearing test, we'll be having dental education. We will, they will be having demonstrations at that booth. Most of us don't floss our teeth, and we do not know how important it is to floss.
And tell us, you know, that's very important, because I was having a conversation with a young lady just before I came on to the studio, and she was saying that, you know, she takes salsa and it's uncomfortable for, she's young and she's uncomfortable for her. And I was saying, relating to her, an experience that I had when I was younger and I was taking salsa classes. I still cannot dance. So okay, don't even get your eyes shiny.
You sweat anyway.
Yes, that was the point.
The important thing is to sweat.
That was the point of it. Yes, yes. I just wanted to do something. I thought it was the most... Yes. I thought it was sexy, so I wanted to do it. I'm not very good at it, but and then I ended up dropping the class simply because the partner that I had halitosis.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, severe. Okay. Bad breath. So I couldn't deal with it. So I ended up dropping the class because at the time I was young and I was very direct, and I didn't want...
There was no way you could tell him?
I'm very direct, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I thought the best thing was for me to drop the class. Now I know a little bit better. I would know how to approach.
To handle that.
Do we have a call? No? Okay. So I would know how to deal with it better, but at the time I didn't know. So I dropped the course. But we have to take a break. When we come back, you'll tell us a little bit more about why oral health is so important.
Yes.
We'll see you on the other side of the break.